Hi everyone, thanks for tuning into our Scale to Zero show. With this podcast, our goal is to get your security questions answered from experts in the security space and build a community. For today's episode, we have Swati Anuj Arya with us. Swati is a leader at the CISO office at Amazon Pay. Prior to that, Swati was a member of the financial services compliance team at AWS. She has also been associated with ISACA for various security training initiatives. Swati, thank you so much for joining with me today. Right,
Thanks for
so
inviting.
absolutely. Right, so let's get started with the questions. The first question is for a fast growing fintech startup, what investments should be made in cybersecurity?
I think basics need to be corrected, right? So, security is not something that you can think once you have designed everything. So, security has to be integrated in the entire process, in the entire setup of the organization. Generally, we see people think about or organization think about security once they have sorted out the functionality part, and then they realize, okay, there are certain things which were correlated with the functionality. Even if they have a limited budget, limited scope, I think the basic control need to be implemented. And when they are designing these controls, they need to assess the risk, and based on the risk, they need to align the security investment. Most of the time, people think that their business is too small for cybersecurity attacks. But if you look at the stats, it says that 60% small and medium-sized organizations have to shut down their shops just because of the cybersecurity attacks. So they have to make these investment in the start. They need to consider security at the start and ongoing basis. And if they are making investment, it has to be based on the risk assessment results, and basic controls need to be implemented correctly. And it need not to be always a kind of heavy investment solutions. Sometimes open source basic security controls can help a lot.
Makes sense. So security and product development should go hand in hand rather than
Exactly.
security being an afterthought. Okay, makes sense. The next question is for a startup, what's the right time to invest in improving the overall security posture versus getting certifications, let's say like SOC 2 or ISO?
It depends on the business and business priorities, as well as where they are doing business, right? So there are certain geographies, certain markets, certain industry where these certifications are kind of must, right? So when you'll go to your first customer, or when you'll go to your first investor, right, they'll ask whether you have these controls in place or not. While if you are working in industry where data is less regulated, the sensitivity of the data is on lower side, I think you may decide to have the certification at later point of time, based on what type of data you are dealing with. If you're dealing with sensitive data, like for example financial data or personal identifiable information, you are targeting customers in geographies where the regulations and the governance is on a higher side. I think these investments and these efforts need to be done in the initial years. And what we have observed in past few years, that even when they are going for investments or they are going for funding, their investors are looking for these details. They're asking what is your security posture, and they are making decision based on that. And the overall valuation of the company can be reduced if you don't have these security measures, compliance programs in place.
Okay, makes sense. Next question. In case of any ransomware attack, what is the best way to restore data?
I think once ransomware attack has happened, it's too late that from where you'll get the backup and restore the data.
Mhm.
This should be decided much prior to that, right? It should be part of your overall BCPDR plan, and you should have a dedicated setup for backup. And definitely, you cannot have backup at the same place where your actual production data is there. So there has to be like segregation where you are keeping your backup data. And if you have done your BCP planning and DR planning properly, I think these questions can be answered easily, because if you have planned where your backup data is, restoration would be just like another step, right? So I think organizations which have done their BCP planning properly, they have kept their data as recent as possible, which have done their restoration testings. Those organizations have been surviving these kind of situations better because they have not waited till that attack happened, right? So they
Right.
have planned for it in much before, and they have tested those plans, right? So sometimes you may have planned everything very proper, but is it working? Have you tested it? Have you restored your backup to see if it's working or not? So I think those are critical step, and having a good cloud infrastructure available from different hyperscale cloud providers, I think backup is not something which is like a tedious thing to do. You just have to decide what you want, when you want, and you can get it with like minimal cost and minimal efforts.
Okay. So preparedness with backups has more
Right.
value. Yeah, makes
And
sense.
not keeping all the eggs in one
One
bucket.
basket. Yeah, yeah. Okay. From a security standpoint, how should we prepare for a large scale event?
So when you say large scale event, I think organization may not have considered how to contain those events, right? So even if we are saying larger scale event, if it is detected properly, the detection has happened timely, there is a proper incident management plan in place, it will do early detection, it will do containment and eradication, and then it will help you in responding in faster way. So I mean, the effort should be in the direction of reducing the overall impact and getting this event a large scale event. And as soon as you identify it, as soon as you take action, it can be the impact can be reduced and the damage can be on lower side.
Okay, makes sense. The last question: in the event of a data breach, what should the response plan look like?
Right. So when we say data breach, right, there are multiple things that need to be considered. First, what type of data has been impacted, and is it a
Mhm.
confirmed breach? If answer is yes, that this is a I mean data which is like regulated in nature, and there are legal implication of this data being breached. I think first part is that you need to identify who need to be informed and what is the timeline that you have to abide with, right? Sometimes there can be legal implication of not abiding with the incident reporting. So I think that is
Mhm.
a critical piece where you involve multiple stakeholders, and you make sure that you are in those timelines. Second is, which is very critical, is that again the containment is important, right? So you are aware that the data breach has happened.
Mhm.
Have you addressed it? Have you contained it? Or you are facing it's like a kind of something which is happening on ongoing basis. So
Right.
containing that data breach, and then doing a root cause analysis, like what has gone wrong, so that the steps can be taken in a short duration and long duration or long term, to make sure that these kind of incidents are not happening. Because even if we are talking about data which is kind of regulated data or legally protected data, in those cases regulators or agencies will be very interested to know that what you have done to protect your data, right? And if you need to take more steps, like you have to inform your customer, depending on where you are doing business, what type of data it is, you can take those steps. So but they want to understand like what is the entire RCA, what is the lesson learning, and based on that the actions can be taken, and those are important. But the immediate thing should be that the damage need to be reduced. You know that something has been impacted, it should not be a rippling effect for other data sets or other system components.
Okay, makes sense. So doing both at the same time, like controlling the damage
Right.
and also going out to the stakeholders and keeping them up to date.
Right, right. And it
Makes
should
sense.
be done in careful like way, right? You need not to create a panic. At the same time, you must be abiding with the policies and the guidelines which are there in the country. So I think those two things need to be balanced out properly. That you are being transparent, you are informing the stakeholders with the facts, and you should have those facts while you are reporting these events to the agencies and regulators. At the same time, you should not be creating a panic, right? So
Right.
right set of information should be provided. For example, if there was a data breach and data was encrypted, probably the damage is on much lower side, right? If
Correct.
only encrypted data has been exposed, and in some geographies that may not even qualify for data breach because the actual data has not been breached. So,
Correct. Right.
giving the right information, being factual, and assessing what is the impact, and based on that, the communication need to be given to the all the stakeholders who are impacted and who need to be informed, reported.
Okay. Makes sense. Now, let's move to the rapid fire section. So, what's your persona animal?
I think I like tiger. I like that.
Okay. What is one of the myths about cybersecurity?
I think one thing is that people need to realize that there is nothing called 100% security. There are two type of organization, right? One, those who have been breached, and second, those who need to be like informed that they have been breached. So there's nothing called 100% security. You need to assess where you are, and based on that, you can secure your organization.
Okay. The next question is, assuming you are hiring, in one sentence, what stands out in a candidate's resume for you?
I think articulation and integrity is important. I mean, these two things are important in information security roles. You need to be really good in articulation because you have to communicate with different stakeholders. You need to articulate based on your audience. And second is integrity. I think if I have a doubt on someone's integrity, I think that will not work for me.
Makes sense. Yeah. What is the biggest lie you have heard in cybersecurity?
I have encrypted everything. I have firewall, and hence I'm secure and compliant.
So, what advice would you give your 25-year-old self starting in security and why?
I think learn little bit of more of developing like software development side. I feel that I started my career in information security and have been heavily involved in the compliance audit side. I think having an experience in product development and I think that side helps a lot. And even today, I feel like I should go and have some kind of learning on those aspects as well.
Okay. Um, so with that, we wrap up the rapid fire round as well. So thank you so much,
Thank you so much.
Swati. It was so insightful to speak with you. Looking forward to learn more from you in future.
Thank you so much, Purushottam. Thanks.